a.m. and I want to thank you so much for joining us online on fox26houston.com, or maybe you're watching us on our Fox 26 app. Welcome, and I appreciate you joining us for our digital version of an important weather update. So I want to talk about two things with you right now, and that is a newly formed tropical system and, of course, the outrageous heat that's going to be hitting the city of Houston again for the day today. All right, first things first, I don't know if you heard about this yet, but Tropical Depression number 3 has formed, and it's out here in the central Atlantic Ocean. It is in an unusual area for June. Most June storms will form in the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean, and of course tend to be weak. We actually have two systems we're watching here. The one behind Tropical Depression number 3 could become TD4 over the next couple of days, but TD number 3 looks pretty robust and is really on the verge of becoming a tropical storm. So the next name on the list is Brett. B-R-E-T, and so that could happen as early as this afternoon. It's moving to the west at 21 miles per hour. That's a pretty fast clip. A lot of times storms out here do move very quickly like that. The estimated central pressure of 1009 is not a particularly strong storm, so at least not yet. And this is as of this brand new 10 a.m. advisory. As far as where it's going, now you could expect this to adjust and change a little bit over the next day or two. This is the 5-day outlook, so really anywhere, it could be really anywhere from around here in the central Caribbean, or maybe even, if I were going to cheat this one way, I would cheat it up, northward of around Puerto Rico. But it's very likely to become the season's first hurricane. Remember, we haven't had a hurricane yet. We had Tropical Storm Arlene. That was the little one that was over in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and it kind of went to the south and just fizzled. I think it was only a tropical storm for like 12 hours, if that. So this is the forecast of the system from the National Hurricane Center. So definitely a concern for the Caribbean. One of the factors that allowed this thing to form, and that is going to make for, I think, an unusual hurricane season, is the fact that the water temperatures out in the Atlantic really are unusually warm. I mean, they're running like 2 or 3 degrees above normal for this time of the year. So we've got a lot of 82, 83, 84 degree readings out there. So this system is going to be moving right into these 84 degree waters, which is going to provide a lot of energy for it. And that's one of the reasons why the National Hurricane Center has it upgrading to a hurricane. So this is the one we're talking about. That's Tropical Depression number 3. The one behind it is also looking pretty good there, Tropical Depression number 4. And in fact, there's another tropical wave coming in behind it. This is much more of an August pattern, or even a September pattern here, what we call the Cape Verde season. And it's off to a bit of an unusually early start. So here's a closer look. Now what we're looking at here is what's called the infrared satellite imagery. The bright colors indicate the tallest cloud tops. And why do we care about the tallest clouds? Well, think about big thunderstorms that we see even here. On a day with big thunderstorms, they're real tall, right? And you get heavy rain. And so that here tells us that there is moisture and warmth that's being transferred from the surface of the Atlantic Ocean up into the clouds. And that's what powers these tropical systems. They're referred to as heat engines. I want to show you this. This is the what's called the GFS ensemble forecast. What on earth is that? Well, the GFS, you've probably heard us talk about that. That's the American computer model. We use that. We also use the European model. And there's a UK model and there's a Canadian model, but the two primary ones we use are the GFS American and the Euro. And this is what's called the ensemble. So in order to account for errors in the initial conditions, in other words, like the initial measurements are never going to be 100% perfect. I mean, you're taking measurements from all over the world, right? They're never going to be perfect. In order to account for that, there are tiny random changes that are made at the beginning of the model, and then it's run through 30 times. So you get 30 different members of the ensemble. So you have one that stays way down here, you have another one that curves it way before it gets to the islands, and what you can do is you could take the average of all of those members of the ensemble, is what you would call them, and that's the red line. And the red line takes you over here into the Caribbean, what you would call the Windward Islands, and then here by the Virgin Islands. So is this exactly where it's going to happen? No, of course not, but it gives us a good idea at this point. And as the storm gets a little bit stronger and a little bit better developed, then the models will probably get a better handle on where it's going. So for right now, Texas threat, minimal, but not zero. So something we'll watch closely. All right, the other big story, of course, is the heat and humidity. It is crazy out there right now, but the dew point value is about as high as it gets, which is giving us a really nasty heat index. Most of Texas, including all the big cities like Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston, all under this excessive heat warning, as well as most of the state of Louisiana. So we're looking for heat index values up to around 115, and in areas where we don't have the heat warning, like down around Brownsville, McAllen, and up here into far northeast Texas and west Texas, there's a heat advisory. That means the heat index up to around 108. So you may be wondering, is relief around the corner? You know, do we have rain and clouds coming our way? A little bit coming up Thursday, Friday, but not much. This is a sneak peek ahead at next week. So this actually takes us through the end of June and the beginning of July. And it does show that most of the country is actually going to be running above normal on our temperatures. And in fact, Texas has the highest probability of seeing above average temperatures, which would most likely continue our trend of lots of upper 90s. Check out forecast highs today. Here in H-Town, most likely about 100. And of course, the temperature always varies, 98, 101. I think that'll be common along the coastline, about 91, 92 for Galveston. But check out some of these highs. Austin and San Antonio, 103 to 104. Laredo, 114. Whew. That is something else. And Corpus Christi at 99, you know, that's always a very humid city, kind of like Houston is, and so I'm sure they're feeling it. Tomorrow, more of the same. So about 100-ish here, up to around 105 San Antonio. And look at that, Del Rio at 113. 100 in Amarillo, and also back up to around 100 in Dallas. And then here's a look ahead at the next day. So Wednesday's high temperatures once again continue the same trend. I mean, give or take a few degrees, it's going to be just about exactly the same for today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And it's all because of this. This is our ridge of high pressure, also known as a heat dome, and it's bringing just that crazy heat to parts of the Rio Grande Valley and deep South Texas. We find ourselves here on the northern periphery, if you will, sort of the outer edge of the ridge of high pressure, which steers the storms just off to our north. So it's not impossible for us to see an isolated thunderstorm, but for the most part, it's going to be steered along this line toward places like New Orleans and even Tampa, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, back over to around Charleston, South Carolina. Those are the places that are most likely to see the track of some heavy storms and severe weather. So this is what I'm talking about, that yellow area. As far as our area, slight chance for us to get a rogue storm in our area. So today, heat index is going to be at least 110. I mean, at times this afternoon, we're talking about 113, 115, 116. I mean, it's just really dangerously hot. So you'll want to, obviously, stay indoors as much as possible. If you do have to be outside, try not to overdo it. If the kids are playing outside, make sure they take breaks. You know, they don't necessarily know that anything about heat exhaustion, so you want to give them lots of cold water to drink and, bring them in the house as much as possible. Make sure that the pets have a shady place to go and a cool place to go and plenty of cool water to drink. And then, of course, check on elderly and, God forbid, somebody whose air conditioning is not working. That is very, very dangerous. Low 80s for tonight, and then tomorrow, slight chance for some thunderstorms coming in. Not a big one, but hey, we'll take whatever we can get. Wednesday also warm. Wednesday does mark the official start of summer with what we call the summer solstice. Heading into Thursday and Friday, a little bit better chance for seeing some scattered showers and storms, which may shave a few degrees off of the high temperature. And then heading into the weekend, very likely we're going to be pretty close to 100 degrees again. So I want you to invite you to join us for Fox 26 News at noon. We'll have the latest heat index numbers. I'm almost scared to look.